fantasy playing what amounts to a 4-4 fake. And there's a touchdown! Touchdown! My God, a touchdown! We threw it to Haynes. My God Almighty! Did you see what he did? We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose.
Welcome to this special edition of the DGD Podcast. As you know, it is me, your boy, Robert Reynolds, along with a few other guests, guys, around the NCAA. Got Golden Blue Dude over here to my right, Aaron Bass from fifth quarter Clemson, and we got a representative of fifth quarter LSU as well. Guys, thanks for coming in. It is obviously, for those that we've been hyping this up for a while, if you're not familiar with what's going on, this episode is strictly for charity, which obviously any donation goes to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So this is college football for the kids. Let's just start off with introducing ourselves, guys. Hey, Golden Blue Dude, introduce yourself. Let people know more about you, and then we'll work with Aaron, and then we'll go down to the Bayou Bengal himself.
Sounds good. First off, I appreciate you having me on here. This is a great show. I watch a lot of your podcasts. My YouTube channel, Golden Blue Dude, I pretty much do college football videos every day right now. I'm in the middle of season predictions. Teams 43 and 44 should be coming out today. So I'm pretty excited for that. College football season is going to be here soon. So my channel is really starting to ramp up the season predictions and all that kind of stuff.
Hey, so while we're here, sorry, Aaron, before I have to cut you off. So people are already asking about the where to donate. If you look in the chat here, I have the link posted so that you can just click it and go. But if you're not familiar, it is right here. I will post it for a little bit right there. And Aaron, I guess while everybody can check out the donation URL, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Not a problem. Hi guys, my name is Aaron. I am the fifth quarter contributor for the Clemson page. I also do their article writing. I'm just born and bred Clemson fan. I just try to keep everything on Twitter. So unfortunately, I don't really have like a Facebook or like a YouTube or anything. But if you guys are interested in what I create, what I write, and what I tweet, just follow at FQ Clemson on Twitter, and you will be completely up to date. I'm just excited to be on here. You know, it's a great cause with some great dudes, and I'm just excited to get into it.
All right, man. Bayou Bengal, let's hear it.
Hey, so I'm Garrett. I run the fifth quarter LSU page. I don't do podcasts, really not my thing, but for a great cause, I'll come out and I'll come talk. Usually the guy behind the phone, but for kids these days and for everybody at St. Jude, why not come out?
Hey, man, thank you for coming on. I know, obviously, you said you don't really get your the mug in front of the cameras, but hey, thanks for coming on, guys. So, like I said, the donation link is right here. I'll go ahead and show a graphic here of the rewards per se for donating, since people have been talking about it. So let me get this off the list here first. Give me a second, guys. So for $1, if you donate $1. I'll be in charge of this. So we'll acknowledge the donation, obviously give you a good thank you. Obviously, since it's going to the kids, moving on to $5, you'll actually get to choose the topic of conversation amongst us. So whatever we're talking about, if we see this, leave the comment saying what you want to talk about, and I'll confirm it, and we will switch topic to what you choose to do so. 10, have someone say a rival rally cry. That's like me saying, yeah, guys, yeah. That's like me saying go Gators, whatever the case may be, right? So, roll tide for Mr. Garrett down there, something like that. $20, you have you get to choose one of us to sing our rivals' fight song. So definitely, I don't want to sing Rocky Top, but for a good cause, I guess I'll learn and sing and warm these vocal cords up. Let's just say that. And for $25, guys, you can I'll give you an invitation and you can come on the show. So just hit me up at Twitter, right? If you do so, DM at the DGD Podcast, and I can send you that link and you can come on the show. Obviously, if you donate $25. And the good thing is, guys, also, these aren't just the only rewards that St. Jude's are doing. You can actually gift like items, actual physical items for the kids as well, and different things like that. So if you do donate, you'll see that you could choose that option. So keep that in mind. But guys, let's start off first. A little bit of a somber note here. Mark Richt, obviously former Georgia coach, diagnosed with Parkinson's. Last night he had went on to Twitter to make that announcement. And before anything, I just want to kind of give thoughts and prayers to him and his family. That's obviously, this is just before we actually get to talking here. Obviously meant a lot to Georgia fans, ACC with Miami, and obviously still contributing to the ACC network. Aaron, you know what I'm talking about. So obviously thoughts and prayers going out to him and his family as well. But guys, I think the biggest topic here, and this will be a great topic starter, NIL just popped in yesterday and already saw a ton of guys around the NCAA, establishing brands, sponsorships, things like that, right? You're going to have this mixture of, positive feedback and negative feedback. And I think, it's something that we've just got to get used to right now. Yep. So want to hear each one of your takeaways on your basic thoughts of NIL. Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? And why? Golden Blue Dude, we'll start with you and then work Aaron and then Garrett.
Honestly, I think it's a good thing. This is not what a lot of people think it is. A lot of people think that the NIL is the universities paying the players, which would make them employees of the university. That's not what's going on, guys. What's going on is this gives the players permission to use their own brand, their own name, likenesses, all that stuff to make money. And I've been saying it all along, why not? Everybody else is making money off their names and likenesses. Why aren't they allowed to? So I think this is a great thing. I know this is going to be used for, some type of recruiting tactic. And at first, it's going to be a filling out process. Some teams are going to have, a lot better leverage than other teams. But I think in the end, it's going to even out. And this gives players a fair shot to make money themselves, because a lot of people don't realize not all these players are going to go on to the NFL and make a lot of money. So allow them to make some money while they can. And as long as it doesn't turn into an employee situation where the universities themselves are paying the players, I'm fine with it.
I'm agree with you there. Aaron, what are your takeaways, bud?
It is an exciting day in college sports. It's one of those things that there was a lot of criticism going around about it. No one really knew what it was. And being fifth quarter Clemson, I have been getting my ear rang about the Dabo Swinney comments from 2 years ago. But it's just one of those things that, to clear up, he was not against NIL. He was against the whole universities directly paying their athletes. That was one thing that he didn't like, because when the players are getting paid by the university themselves, it's very hard to actually regulate that. Fact of the matter is, D1 schools like Clemson, LSU, UGA, West Virginia are going to have a lot more money to play with and possibly pay their players than, Georgia State, Louisiana Lafayette, Wofford, Marshall. So it's one of those things that you have to really understand that if you were going to do a university's playing, it would have to be a base salary. And then at that point, they're employees, and it creates a lot more gray areas. I think the NIL way is the perfect way, because as we're seeing, it's not just about college football. It's not just about male athletes. I mean, some of the biggest contracts have already gone out to female athletes. We have Garrett would know the Livy girl, LSU gymnast. She's huge on TikTok. She's a huge social media influencer, and now her having the ability to actually make a profit off of having millions of followers and millions of interactions is huge. And frankly, I'm seeing more big name deals done with female athletes of non-power, I guess you could say, sports than I have seen with male college football athletes. So it's just it's an exciting day, and most of the main fears about it are already being thrown out the window simply because they're just fears based off of the idea that people believe one sport, one gender, this and that is better than the other. So, I'm just excited to see how it goes. Obviously we're going to talk about it like a lot more, but I'm just excited. It's a huge day.
Garrett, what about you, bud?
Just like, Golden Blue say, most people don't understand what it is. And the only reason there's outrage is they really don't understand how big it is for athletes, like, just like Aaron was saying with like Livy Dunn, all these different, people who are able to do what they want, I forgot who said, most people aren't going to make it to the NFL, so let them make some money while they can, it's, like I said, there's still going to be a whole lot of gray areas with all this. Everything new is going to have gray areas. It's not going to be fully kinked out till a few years. But like you say, you have all these universities who are going to be able to, give you more followers, who are going to give you more of a fan base than most. Like Livy Dunn is probably going to be the most paid athlete in the country. There's no denying that. She has the biggest fan base. I already have a picture with her, so I can, sell autographs for that now.
Absolutely.
It is what it is. I feel important now, so I have the biggest NIL athlete out there in my camera roll. It just is what it is. But like I said, people just are creating outrage because they don't understand it. People aren't. You have young kids who are possibly gonna be making more money than them, and that's okay. But like I said, give it a few years, it's going to be kinked out, and college sports, and it's going to be the same way it was 2 years ago. So
I can't agree with you more, man. I'm on board with Golden Blue Dude as well. I think that if you're looking at basic economics of it, right? I hate to sound business-like, but I mean, it's what I do. Supply and demand is going to dictate these guys and, things like that. So, yeah, you're going to, by nature, you're going to see your quarterbacks in certain positions benefit more. However, there's, you're still looking at these guys. You're giving them opportunities for one. So everybody's getting an opportunity, to do something like that. I brought on Alan George. He's a starting cornerback from Vanderbilt. And we were talking about the upcoming at the time, NIL. And, he brought up a very good point, and I love reiterating this. It's basically if you take an average, student, they can make money while they're in college, right? If they're on full scholarship, they can do that. So why limit a football player or, an athlete? Why limit them, if they're good at something? Whether, like for his instance, he video games a lot and streams. So, looking at something like that, it made sense to me. It really clicked and set in, listening from his standpoint. I really enjoyed that conversation because it opened my eyes to his level and an athlete's level. So, I'm glad that these guys have the opportunity to, to bet on themselves, right? If they can find ways to host camps or, sell T-shirts or, signatures, Cameo, whatever, all these different options you're seeing, especially on social media, it's all over the place. Why not? Let these guys do it, and I'm glad that it's happening. Obviously there's some backlash or whatever, but, it's a new situation, and I think, when you look at it, things will get smoothed out over time. It'll, you know what I mean? At least that's my logic of it. So that's my take on the NIL.
The only thing that I would say, I feel bad for the people that are in the compliance departments of these universities, because that's going to be a freaking nightmare to start out with, to make sure, because they're going to have to make sure that these athletes do still stay in compliance, because there are rules in place. And for those guys in the compliance department, this is going to be very tricky to start to start out with. I think it'll get smoothed over, but right now I would not want to be working in the compliance departments of these universities.
Yeah, no, I don't know how to feel about that either, but compliance that's a nightmare. That is a nightmare. But go ahead. You had something to say?
I know. I was going to say, just like you were saying with the compliance department, all these rules were just put into place, over a course of 2 days, So you're going to have all these questions being asked, and they're going to say, I don't know how to answer that right now. Yep. I feel like it's just going to, like I said, the biggest problem with everything is the uncertainty of not knowing what's happening, And I feel like, over the next few months, next few years, everything's going to be brought to light, and it's just going to get better,
This proves how incompetent the NCAA is. I mean, they should have done this a long time ago, and it seems like that they had to put something together really, really quick, and that's why there's going to be issues in the beginning. Not because this is a bad thing, it's because they finally realized that they're supposed to do this. This needed to happen, and so last minute, 2 days, whatever, put something together, and we're done. And now, now it's in the compliance department's hands. And to me, I honestly don't know why the NCAA exists, because to me, and last year pointed this out, the NCAA is incompetent. Whenever the COVID issue up, we don't know what to do, and it was left to the conferences. What happened? Some conferences had 10 games, some 8, some it was crazy. The only real reason the NCAA exists right now is to punish people. So that's one thing that's really broadened my horizons on the NCAA. What is the point of them existing? There is no point.
They're very incompetent. Hey guys. Hey Garrett.
What's up?
So there's a donation for $10 from myself. From myself. I'm gonna need you to. It's $10 donation, buddy. So I'm gonna need you to warm those vocal cords up and say that Alabama rally cry, my man. There you go. There you go. I don't know who this Facebook user is, guys, but I helped you out. So, and if you do it again, you can make us say whatever you want as many times as you want. I'm here for it.
Let's see.
No. You just say the rally cry. It's a $10 donation. It's not a $20.
The RTR.
Just say it. That's all you got to do. If it's $20, then we gotta. Yeah, the $20 donation. To clarify, guys, anybody listening and watching, the $20 donation allows one of us here to really sing the fight song. $10 donations have one person of your choice to say the rally cry.
Oh man,
you gotta say it.
Roll Tide, roll.
Oh man, that is painful. I could see
that was pitiful. I think he can do better than that.
Next time, guys. Next time. Hey, he's warming up. He's a little shy. Remember that, man. He's not one to come in front of the camera all the time. So we got to give him a little bit of the doubt there, man.
I'll give him a buy on that.
Hey, fair enough. Hey, guys, so I want to get y'all's opinions on this. Obviously, with NIL, I love video games. When I can get a chance, I will gladly play them. What does this mean for college sports video games? Obviously, if you're a gamer, it's a cult following. You have your NCAA 14, your football 14, and then you have college baseball, right? I don't know if y'all remember the college baseball. It goes all the way back to like 2007, and then basketball goes back to 2010. I know football's already been stated, but this has got to be the first steps for EA Sports to hit back up on the college baseball's games, the college basketball games. I think it has to, right? Or is that something that you just see the football come back for?
Well, EA Sports was already talking about bringing back the football for next year.
I know.
That was going to be a done deal, but I think this is going to make it even better because you're not just going to have generic teams where you're like, yeah, it's a tongue-in-cheek thing. Yeah, I know who that is, but they can't really say his name. And it's like now it's like who that is. It's going to be great. I've missed that, and they even have this cult thing online where they've kept the last version and they just keep updating it and updating it and updating it. That's a legal loophole that they've been going around. Now EA Sports can actually put out year-to-year college football games with your actual favorite players in there. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I have revamped, guys. I'm telling you, revamped. If you're not a gamer, it's I love it. I absolutely love it. You're gonna have to play it on your PS3 or your Xbox 360. So, a lot of people probably don't have those, but if you do, I suggest you get one, get a copy of the game, and find out how to do it, because I'm telling you, current uniforms, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I was talking to some people about that. Some of the guys that do the programming for the revamp to actually start doing the things for the game. So, EA took notice, you know what I mean? And I think that's a really good step. I really think that's a good step, because you're going to see, obviously, with the technology now, we saw what happens with revamped on 2014. Just imagine what it's going to look like in 2022, 2023 when it comes to PS5, Xbox S, things like that. It's going to be insane. And being able to play with JT Daniels or Keishon Butte, if he's still there, DJ for Clemson, things like that, right? Some of the biggest names can be on that game. It's going to be absolutely fucking fun to deal with. It really is. And I can't wait for it. I don't know if y'all are gamers, Aaron, Garrett.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, dude. I play.
Definitely.
I was going to say, you go ahead.
I specifically kept my 360 to play NCAA 14. I have revamped. I've been playing it for ever since it came out. I'm gonna let Garrett do his piece, but I do have some concerns about NIL and how EA is going to go about it.
And even with all speaking of video games, especially with not even considering what Madden or EA or anything, but now you bring up a whole new pipeline of video games, esports, and with all these universities, you have all these huge leagues. You have FaZe, Optic Gaming. You have all these different things. Soon, I believe sooner or later you're going to see that being the new professional league, and then now you're going to have college. You're going to have an esports draft sooner now. That's what you're going to have. You're literally about to bring out a whole esports, making it look like NFL, MLB, and college sports. Like college esports. The players get paid from that championship from all that money, but at the same time, majority of that money goes right back into the program. Now you have all these different things where you're going to be sponsored by FaZe, sponsored by Optic Gaming, and it's just going to bring, like I said, it's going to bring whole new pipelines to what could have been years ago and years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just, like I said, I'm glad to see what opportunities these guys have, right? Like they do things, they're not just athletes, guys. Remember that, obviously when you look at athletes, a lot of people just look at Georgia football players or Clemson football. These guys are student athletes. Like, treat them as a student as well. Just because they're an athlete doesn't limit them to being just an athlete. So, give them the, I think doing this right kind of gives them that freedom to, to do things that a normal kid can do, right? Like I said earlier, if a normal kid, if I'm in school on a full scholarship, I get my room and board paid for, sure. But at the end of the day, I can still do things, go to work or, provide services, things like that, and get paid for it. And there's no question, nobody bats an eye, but when it comes to football and all these other sports, it seems like it's way overdue. And honestly, it should have been a thing a long time ago. It should have never really been, now obviously the regulation and kind of protecting the kids. And that's a big deal, right? I genuinely believe that's a big deal. But like, why do we have to limit these kids and restrict them from if they're a huge name, sign an autograph. Why can't I get $50 off of that? So, like I said, I'm glad to see that, the NIL is a thing now. Obviously you got that feedback where people think, they've got room and board, right? And they've got room and board, they've got meals, they got food, things like that. And I get that. But then it kind of ties back into, their kids, if you can make money off of it, cool. You know what I mean? Like, people can do that, so why can't an athlete do it? At least that's my logic. But look, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'll say, like, even speaking like that, like you said, they're getting a room and board paid for, but at the same time, they're not even wanting money, to just spend, Like you said, not everybody makes it to the league, all these, people who are playing college football, that's going to be their biggest chance for success in life, is that small little chance. Now, what happens if they don't make it to NFL? All that money that they could have earned in college, it's going right back to their family, You look at all these athletes in the NFL, what's the very first thing they do with that money? They buy their mom a car, buy their mom a house. It's never been about, oh, well, I want all this money, I want to go to clubs, athletes, LSU, athletes aren't supposed to go to Tigerlands, but they do, but they don't. It's a whole thing about it. But at the same time, people think, oh, well, they just want money for clubs. They want money for, drugs and everything. They could get that, that's the easiest thing for them to get into. Your name is out there, If you're Joe Burrow, you're getting to any building for free. I don't care who you are, what building it is. But,
let's be honest here. Go ahead. So I'm sorry. My apologies.
But I was going to say, the first thing that they're going to do with that money is support their family back home, But
well, you would think so, but I mean, I get your logic behind it.
Yeah.
I just think these guys have been getting paid. Let's be honest, they've been getting paid. No team got called.
Oh yeah.
But now it's for us, it's right in front of our face, and like I said, I'm happy for them. I mean, let's be honest. You said there, you bring utter joy and devastation to us four right here. That's the make some money off of that, man. Like, do what you got to do. It's a business. We know that, right? NCAA is just, I don't understand how they're still a business, but you get what I mean. Like, I'll bash them every time I can. I just don't like the NCAA. At least the leadership they got now, I don't care for it too much. But anyways, so we've got this right here, right? The NIL. I'm telling you right now, though, I think the NIL, you're starting to see a resurgence in programs that that have a lot of donors. USC sticks out to me. You look at what they're doing in recruiting right now, and I mean, let's be honest, Clemson down here, Aaron, Florida State is killing it right now in recruiting. And I'm wondering now, I don't know how much of a factor that has in it, but for USC, I genuinely believe that the NIL situation is really helping them because of the branding and the market that they're in. So which leads me to a resurgence in USC and the playoff expansion. Let's talk about some playoff expansion. I think.
If you don't mind me interrupting real quick, the whole idea of alumni bases and brand and this and that. One thing that I do want to point out is that is an NCAA compliance violation. A player, an athlete must be given an opportunity to have NIL through an unaffiliated third party company. An alumni cannot help the player get that NIL, or even passively help. One of those things like one of the biggest things is Nike and Oregon. I'm gonna tell you right now, if a Nike or if an Oregon student athlete gets sponsored or gets an endorsement by Nike, it is going to rain absolute hell on Oregon simply for the fact that it is a compliance violation, and it is one of those things that everyone has questioned. These brands like USC, like Oregon, like Michigan, like even UNC with the Jordan brand, the student athlete has to get it from an unbiased party, and they can do it through an unbiased or a unaffiliated agent. But it is one of those things, like, just because like a USC alumni is who knows, who cares, and they're helping these student athletes get access to NIL. That's a huge violation. And going back at it, the NCAA is only out there to punish people. They're going to crack down on USC. They're going to crack down on Oregon. They're going to crack down on whomever it is getting that endorsement deal through an alumni, through a booster. So it just makes it a little bit more difficult for compliance offices. And, one can hope that the universities, that the student athletes are going to keep their integrity, to keep honest and do it the right way. But as you stated, let's be honest, everyone's paying everyone. It's just, it isn't. Here's the way I say it. It's only against the rules if and when you get caught. No one's really gotten caught. So if there is a athlete who's doing something through whomever, through like a booster, it's probably not going to happen. I would be remiss if I didn't say, like, going to Clemson games my entire life, being in Tiger Town just about every weekend, twice a week, whatever it is. Hey, I've seen things. I know things. I'm not going to say anything, but everyone does it. Everyone's a part of it. And if you really think you are better than anyone else because of it, you're just not. You know, that's just how college sports is. But, I mean, I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue, but I do know for a fact if like Nike in Oregon or an Oregon athlete does something, questions are going to be raised and the NCAA is going to get directly involved. That's just pure fact.
Yeah, and there's going to be some fronts established. It's going to be like the real world where, they can't get it from this source, so they'll have that source send it to this source, and then that source will send it to the athlete. So there's going to be a lot of that going on. I got a quick question off topic real quick. This is kind of out of left field. Aaron, I know do you work for Clemson? Are you in Clemson?
I am not affiliated with the university. I do have media credentials for some of the athletic teams, but I am not actually like based out of Clemson. I just kind of like do this like on my free time. I was just born and raised a Tiger fan. Would have liked to have gone there for school. Things didn't really work out the way I wanted it to, but I kept the faith, kept the love, and I'm currently reaping the rewards of that.
Well, the reason I asked is I actually live near Clemson. I'm like 10 minutes out of Clemson, and I'm about to do my Clemson Georgia prediction. And my plan is to go where the gate is in front of Howard's Rock.
Yeah,
I'm going to shoot in front of there. I'm going to try to get a little crowd of students and stuff and do like a game day type of thing. So I didn't know if you were around the Clemson area. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not. I'm based out of North Atlanta.
Okay, I got you. Sorry, guys.
I did have a question, Aaron. You mentioned, like Oregon with Nike, North Carolina with Jordan. So, looking at these, these contracts that these apparel companies have with the schools, in my opinion, I don't think you can see a Nike-sponsored school like a Georgia. You're not going to see a kid be able to get endorsed by Adidas because of the contracts with the school. So, to your point, I guess the question is, how will compliance handle situations where Jordan was based out of obviously North Carolina and Nike with Oregon? How do you allow them the same opportunity without being that kind of bias? I think that's where the question would arise. You know what I mean? Like, how would that work? Do y'all have any ideas on what you would think it would be?
I mean, I don't really know. All I would say is you would have thought June 1st or July 1st would have been this absolute bombshell. Athletes signing with just absolute buku companies, but the way it's really looking like, it's not really giving athletes the opportunity to get endorsed. It's more of the opportunity for an athlete to create their own merchandise. I mean, Derek King already started his line. Justin Ross started a line. Kendall Milton is starting a line. Spencer Rattler. Garrett Mertz out of Wisconsin. You're seeing all these guys just start their own lines. I do not think they're actually going to sign any kind of like endorsement deals with actual companies, or at least of the like athletic apparel, because their schools already have contracts. And I mean, like, I don't want to see people as being sleazy like this or being scummy, but if an athlete wants to sign with Adidas and they go to a Nike school, that athlete's not going to play a lot.
Yeah,
exactly. That's just how it's going to be. I don't care. Like, I want to be positive. I want to think that wouldn't be the case, but if an athlete makes in my opinion, the very poor decision to sign a merchandise deal with a competitor company that is sponsoring, that pays their school hundreds of millions of dollars to wear their apparel, to sell their apparel, then, I mean, that's a decision that in all honesty, me as a coach would make me question their decisions on the field, right? Because I have no doubt if a player signs with Adidas and they go to a Nike school, one, if they're signing with Adidas, that means their school, their compliance office, their administration is aware that this athlete is getting apparel offers, and they're saying it's okay. So the idea that they would do a competitor company is just far and beyond stupid, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
But most of the apparel contracts are more of just giving the athlete the opportunity to create their own merchandise, to launch their own lines, to do collaborative efforts, but doing it outside of the norm, outside of the usual, I guess, like big five companies. And then the other endorsements we're seeing, in all honesty, are mostly just mom and pop shops. You know, I like outside of like the big like a branding company, like a advertising company, no athletes are really doing big endorsements. You know, we saw that Arkansas dude. I'm just telling you right now, I don't know his name. I don't know why PetSmart would sign him. No one knows who in the right mind that dude is. I guess it's just because he loves his dog. There's a lot of athletes that love their dogs. You know, yeah, PetSmart, the dogs. You know, it's I don't know. I think some athletes are kind of making poor decisions. Some companies are just kind of doing it to do it, but it isn't really a mystery why the best and the brightest athletes, or at least for college football, haven't signed anything yet. There's nothing in ink. There's nothing on paper, and that's simply because there's a lot you have to work out. There's a lot you have to figure out. You have to make sure it doesn't clash with the school, it doesn't clash with a brand. So I don't know. There isn't really like a way to go about it. I would just say, like, if you're an athlete, you know, like, I know people don't like people being critical of athletes. I'm not being critical of an athlete. I'm being critical of a person here. Don't be stupid enough to sign Adidas when you go to a Nike school. Don't sign Under Armour when you go to Oregon. That's just stupid, and you're going to not play because of it. I don't care how good you are. Someone's going to think of a way to get you off the field, and it's going to happen. You know, that's just a great country we live in. People are going to collude against each other. It's going to happen. Just don't be stupid about it.
Yeah. That's what people don't realize. This is not more about sponsorship. This is more about giving the athletes to make money off themselves, creating their own brand. This isn't about athletes signing with Nike or signing. That's going to happen. Students are going to make bad decisions, but this was more about just giving them that's like, you know, when you create a YouTube channel, you get to a certain point, you can make money off yourself. You can get sponsors later, but that's not what it's about. It's about creating your own brand and making money off yourself. That's what this whole thing was kind of focused on. Yes, bad decisions are going to get made, and people will sign sponsorships with brands that they're not supposed to. But this was more about athletes being able to make money off themselves.
I agree with you. Hey, so I want to kind of switch topics here. I know we had talked about obviously NIL pretty well. So the college football playoffs got expanded to 12 teams. Garrett, I want to hear your thoughts.
Might be expanded. They're exploring the possibility.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. Let's be honest, it's going to happen.
2023.
But, yeah. Hey, Garrett. So we'll start off with you, and then we'll work Aaron, and then Gold and Blue. Do you think it's a good idea to expand to 12? If so, let me know. If not, let me know.
I mean, there's no reason to not do it. You know, you have, you know, all these schools. I mean, prime example, Florida last year, you know, they played their bowl game, and I get Kyle Trask played. He threw how many interceptions? I don't care. But look at who was starting. You know, you had your third string wide receiver as your wide receiver one. Your biggest players opted out. There was no point to playing a bowl game no more. You know, if you're not in the playoffs, you're not playing. It doesn't matter no more. And I think it's getting to the point to where you're going to have to expand the playoffs. And quite frankly, I really don't see a reason, like I said, to not expand it. You know, there's all these pros to expanding it, and you know, there may be one or two cons. You know, whatever they are. Like there's negatives and positives about everything, but I think the positives severely outweigh the negatives in this situation. You're gonna have playoff games like the exploration of having 4 playoff games at home. Well, however many at home, and then you're gonna have some at a neutral site. I think all the kinks are gonna get worked out, but I think the possibilities of playoffs in the college football are just too much to handle right now.
Sorry if you saw me waving. If you're watching live, I waved to Harrison. He just popped in and said, "What's up?" So I didn't want to stop you in mid conversation, Garrett. But Eric, I take what Garrett just said here. What are your thoughts on the playoff expansion?
I am all for expansion. The idea of mandatory inclusion is what I don't like. 12 teams, in my opinion, is just too many. Look. The playoffs with a 4-team layout has already shown some massive blowouts. Just complete teams that don't match up together, right? Like, let's look at 2018. Clemson, Notre Dame, right? What was it, 30-3? Clemson, Alabama, 44-13 or 44-16, right? Clemson, LSU. I don't want to say it. Beat the brakes off of us. Fact of the matter is, there's the top echelon, there's the top tier, there's a big gap, and then there's everyone else. I like the idea of expanding. I think if you want to reward the better teams and give them a bye, I'm all for that. 6 teams. Top 2 seeds get a bye. Other 4 teams play it out. But the big thing that absolutely aggravates me about this proposal is and shows just how poorly thought out it was. You have Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. Those are the top 4 teams in the country, top 4 programs in the country, without a doubt. Those are the 4 teams who are going to be in those top 4 slots 9 times out of 10, right? Might have UGA, beat Alabama in the SEC ship. Might have LSU slide in, but fact of the matter is those are the 4 best teams in the country, and they're not going to be able to play in a home playoff game because they're just that good. You're in an effort to reward a team for being good and giving them a bye, you're taking away probably the biggest game day of that college town you can ever think of, right? You put a home playoff game in Athens, right? As a Clemson fan, if you put a home playoff game in Athens, I'm going to be there, right? You put a home playoff game, Baton Rouge, the entire state's going to be there. Put it in Clemson, the entire state's going to be there. Put it in Morgantown, the entire state of West Virginia, half the state of Virginia, and half the state of Pennsylvania is going to be there, right? That is the biggest money-making day in those towns by far. And they're all college towns. Towns that significantly saw a drop in revenue, a drop in tax income because of the pandemic, right? So in an effort to reward these top 4 teams, you're taking away their ability to host a home playoff game, right? I'm fine with 12 teams. Fine. I am okay with, some team who thinks they're hot shit getting their brains beat in by 50 by someone who actually deserves to be in an actual playoff championship format. I'm not okay with these programs getting the advantage of hosting a home playoff game. That's my thing. Because along with the home playoff game is ticket allocation, right? It is the most difficult thing every year for me to try to get a ticket to whatever playoff game Clemson's going to, right? When Clemson played LSU, I was barely on that cut line of getting
I got a
booster
free ticket, so
cool. But if this game, put it in South Bend, 98% is going to be Notre Dame fans, right? Clemson fans, we aren't going to have the opportunity to send 80,000 strong into Death Valley for that game. And that's what aggravates me. As much as I don't want to come off as this elitist of this idea that teams just aren't good enough, we also need to embrace the fact that teams just are not good enough, right? Like, I understand like that Florida team was good and all. They weren't playoff caliber good enough.
Hell
Right?
no.
They weren't playoff caliber good enough. You know, you put Oklahoma, they're never playoff caliber good enough. So just expanding and throwing more teams in there, I mean, hell, let's just expand it to 128, throw out the entire regular season. You lose in the first week, your season's done. I don't care, your season's done. You run through the gauntlet, you win it all. Congratulations, you're a national champion. That's the only way you're going to appease some of these fans who don't understand that fact of the matter is you have to be good enough, and teams just aren't that.
You know, I'm looking at it this way though. The teams that make it 5 through 8, right? I would think get the home team there, home advantage. You know, I just hope that the ranking system, right, the committee that ranks these teams get it right, because if they do, it makes sense for the home team to get that. They've earned it, right? Like, it's not like like no bias where, I hate to say this, but I mean, when Bama came in at a lot, and we beat Georgia had beat Auburn in the SEC championship, right? So we came in the number 1. And then obviously Auburn had beat Bama that year, but Bama slides in at the 4. You know, obviously that's one situation, like kind of situation that way. But, you know, the 5 through 8, I would like to think that they earned the right to play in those games. And, you know, as a reward for that, I think that's why the home field advantage. Now, obviously the ticket splits, things like that. Like, you know, I get where your point is. I see where you're going with it. I just, you know, look at teams like when Georgia went to Notre Dame. Obviously, it was a regular season, not a playoff game, but teams travel still, and I think you're going to see that now with the playoff game. That's TBD if it happens, whatever the case may be. But you know, the teams that are 5 through 8 earn that right. I would like to hope that they do. So I think you have to give them that credit there, and I think that's just the perk of playing the home game, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
I would see it.
I would say this, right? Yes, you want this idea that 5 through 8 deserve their chance to host. You want the idea that 9 through 12 have earned their chance to play in it. If you want to do this based off of earned, and you want to do this based off of who has the right, then just don't do the rankings and just pick teams. Pick teams that you think should be in there, because there's no way in hell I, as a Clemson fan, I, as a college football fan, would support the notion that a 9-3 football team has any right playing for a college football national championship, right? Alabama, that team was good enough. They deserved to make it in, right? That everyone knew that. A one-loss Bama team was not going to miss out. And there are still ways to protect teams if they have 2 losses, right? Let's say Clemson beats UGA. Clemson loses, or UGA loses 1 SEC game, but they go on and beat Bama in the SEC championship. There's no way that 2-loss UGA team who beat Bama in an SEC championship game is not making the playoffs. They're making the playoffs. There's a way for a 2-loss team to make the playoffs. You just got to run your gauntlet, and you have to keep in the driver's seat. That's the main thing. That's the one thing that I harp at teams, fans. Stay in the driver's seat. Don't leave it up to chance, because at that point, you have no one to blame but yourself, right?
Yep, I agree.
A 3-loss team who didn't even play in their championship game shouldn't make a playoff, right? That's just how I believe that's how it should be. And if you want to expand, then maybe go to 8. I think the only reason someone proposed 12 was because deep down in their heart, they knew their team wasn't good enough to make the 8. If your team's not good enough to make the 8, that's not good enough to make the 6 and to make the 4. So if you want to expand and to appease everyone, just make it 128. You know, just throw out the regular season. And yeah, I do think the teams 5 through 8, you would hope, have earned a chance to host a home playoff game. But 5 through 8, some of those teams just experienced their second loss already in a championship caliber game. I don't think they should be rewarded by hosting a playoff game. Congratulations, you lost your championship game. You lost your second game of the year. Here's a home playoff game where you are going to make millions of dollars.
And I guess I don't know. I feel like you can look at it from a college sports standpoint. You know, my biggest two favorite times of the year, March Madness, and you have, you know, College World Series. You know, those are undoubtedly two of my favorite times of the year. And I get they're two different sports in football. You know, you can win one game in football, and then you can absolutely get destroyed against the same team you just beat, you know, a few weeks later. You know, but you know, you also got to look at it. You know, you had North Carolina State just now. You know, college baseball. You know, they went from a team that nobody stood to being the number one team in the country to possibly they could have beat Vanderbilt and went to the, you know, the championship, but NCAA happened. You know, but then, you know, like I'm looking at it right here, you know, let's just look at the 2019 season. You know, if I think I'm not looking at 2020, Coastal Carolina will never ever be in the top, 12 again. I don't care.
Don't you dare talk about the mullets from Myrtle like that.
Oh, you hush. So I mean, you got top 4: LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia. You know, your best 4 teams in 2019. Then number 5 through 8, you know, Oregon, Florida, Oklahoma, Alabama. Number 9 through 12, Penn State, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Notre Dame. You would have those 4 top teams have a bye week. So they are going to have a home game that second week. We all know that. That's how it's going to work out. Your top 4 seeds are going to have that home game that second week. So now you have Oregon, Florida, Oklahoma, Alabama. Alabama's playing Penn State at Alabama. You know, you have Oklahoma playing Minnesota. You have Florida playing Wisconsin. I think that's going to be the only blowout in the first one. And then you have Oregon versus Notre Dame. You know, and then after that, it's just countless possibilities. And, you know, 11-2 Alabama in 2019 still will probably beat the number 1 team anyway. I mean, look how close the LSU-Alabama game was. Not going to credit that game out. But, I mean, I feel like, you know, the whole thing of, you know, blowouts upon blowouts upon blowouts, you know, you got to give Oklahoma, you know, their playoff spot because they did what they had to do to get the playoff spot. They did what they had to do in regular season. Doesn't matter who they played. That doesn't matter, you know, how bad they beat somebody. You know, credit they just lost to Kansas State and whoever they just lost to. But you know, like I say, you know, they do what they have to do year after year to get into the playoff spot. Now, do they do what they need to do in the playoffs? Probably not. But at the same time, it's, you know, you have these teams who, you know, 9 out of 10 times could beat a team in a playoff spot. And I think that's really what it's all about. There's really no point in bowl games no more. You know, the whole point of LSU, you know, losing I think, you know, being honestly, I think our last best bowl game was losing to Notre Dame in the, you know, Citrus Bowl, I think it was. You know, but it
was a close game, wasn't it? I think if I'm not mistaken, that was a close game.
Ian Book was still playing in 2015. Let's just for that.
Dude was there forever.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, the whole expansion was going to happen regardless. Now the whole debate is, you know, like he was saying, like Aaron was saying, you know, 8 teams, 12 teams, 6 teams. You know, I feel like 8 is right there. I think 8 is kind of where it should be. But then, you know, you bring it to 12 and, you know, you just give it, you know, a countless possibility. You know, we see what happens in March Madness. We see, you know, all these upsets happening. You know, is it harder for upsets to happen in football?
Isn't.
Oh, yeah.
College football isn't like college basketball. I mean.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Right.
You know,
with baseball, you can't really compare. Once you put, you know, a team against a team in football, very rarely does the very significant lesser team win, right? And even if they do, there have to be really uncontrollable variables that lead to that team not being able to win, right? Clemson lost to Syracuse. Kelly Bryant goes down, and Dabo doesn't know what in the hell to do with who's at backup. Clemson loses to Pitt. It does happen. I will say this, but you put a championship mindset Clemson, championship mindset Alabama, Ohio State, really those three. Championship mindset, they are not losing to a team they shouldn't lose to, right? Tell
that to Florida.
Yeah,
Wasn't Clemson not supposed to lose to Ohio State last year in the playoffs?
That was a yes, or kinda, but that's still Clemson and Ohio State. That's two juggernauts, right?
I see that point. I mean,
like
those games go either way, really. I would think. Like
you put Alabama in Tuscaloosa against Penn State? I think that game's an absolute blowout. I think that game's not competitive. I mean, like let's look at Clemson and Miami from 2020. Everyone's like, what happens? And Clemson just goes in and just stays at home, donkey punches Miami and walks out, and everyone's like, oh, well, they were supposed to do that, right? I mean, like, if you want the teams that are kind of on the fringe, you don't know, to play it out and do that, they have their chance in the New Year's Six Bowl. If you're an athlete and you have this idea that if I'm not in a playoff, it's not worth my time, then you're a sorry athlete. Athletes don't play. Athletes, ever since sports have started, athletes play for pride, right? Mm-hmm. They play for recognition. It was very rarely up until like the 18th century where athletes were playing for money, we're playing for a championship, we're playing for a trophy. They're just going out there for sport. They're playing for pride. And if at every heart of every true athlete, there is this want to compete and this want to play for pride, right? I have played on some of the best baseball teams in the country. I've played on some of the worst baseball teams, right? I was on a team back in my freshman year in high school, right? A travel team that had the chance to play in the biggest tournament like in the country of that age group, right? Tournament where every college scout was going to be there. Everyone knew everyone. I didn't make that tournament. I still played in the other tournament. I didn't go, oh, this isn't it for me. And I understand the guys who have money to play for, who have this idea of going in the first round, doing this and that. I get it. You don't want to risk bodily harm. I don't hold that against them. I do hold the idea that, oh, they weren't up for it. Like, I think when Texas beat UGA, and the idea was, well, UGA didn't want to be there. Yeah, well, no shit. No one wants to barely miss the playoffs. The difference is how you respond. Texas went in and kicked UGA's teeth in. And I just think if you're a team who's on the fringe, who's like, oh, man, I wish we would have made it, but, it just, the system's rigged. Like, ugh. Like, well, then go and win your New Year's Six Bowl, right? If UGA had beaten Texas that year, yeah, a lot of questions would have been asked. They didn't, right? If what was it? Who was the on the fringe team last year in 2020? Who was number 5? A&M.
Yeah.
A&M, I think they
destroyed.
Did they struggle bus against UNC?
They destroyed them.
Yeah, I think they won by double digits, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, at least 2 scores.
Okay. That game would have been played either way. Texas A&M versus UNC would have been played in a playoff game.
Same with Georgia and Cincinnati.
Same with Georgia and Cincinnati. Those games would have been played either way. The only difference would be, I guess, the winner advances. And then they just have, I would say, just about every time that team that advances loses to the team holding their spot. In reality, the only team who's like they make the playoffs but really shouldn't is Oklahoma. But they do what they need to do.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Dadgummit.
Yeah, maybe. But it's just those teams do what they need to get done. They know what they have to do, and they get it done, right? So I don't know. I think if you want to expand, I'm a 6-team guy. But if you want to go more, I'm fine with 8. Once you do 12, you're just, in my opinion, you're lollygagging. You're just throwing teams in there because you want to see what might happen. You're throwing a wrench in a perfectly fine engine just to see how it reacts.
Perfectly fine engine?
Huh?
Perfectly fine engine? The whole reason why they're expanding is because the first round playoff games have been blowouts and they're trying to get more money. And then even some you're not going to get rid of blowouts. Even some national championship games have been blowouts. Teams that dominate are going to dominate. I mean, it doesn't matter what format you're in. This format is great because, number one, I think it actually increases the importance of the regular season because you're going to have teams at the end of the season that are like, even though we're in the playoffs, we want to get that home field advantage. We want to get that first round bye. And you talk about conference championship being important again. They are super important again now. You're playing for a first round bye.
Ask UGA if a conference championship isn't important.
It's always been important. Yeah.
I'm talking about like, Big 12, Pac-12, Big 10, teams that know that they're not getting into the play. Now that conference championship game is even more important.
Yeah.
Clemson, the ACC championship has been a foregone conclusion for Clemson now. Now it's like, okay, now we're playing for something. Now we win. We're getting a bye.
Well, no. Clemson's always playing for something in an ACC championship, and that's never going to change. The idea is never going to change. And I guess if you're trying to say that a lesser team's like, well, one, if you expand to 12, the regular season doesn't matter. You can have 2 hiccups. You can have 2 mistakes and you can still make it in, right? Your mentality for wanting to be a playoff caliber team is every week you play is a playoff game. You want to talk about the importance of regular season. You drop a game you shouldn't, you don't know if you're going to make it in. Ask Oklahoma. They have to do everything in their power after they drop to K-State just to be the number 4 team, right? Now they're like, oh, well, that's, now expanding to 12, it's a 3 strikes you're out.
You look at it this way too, guys. I'm looking at it this way. I get Golden Blue Dude's theory here. I do. And when it comes to Clemson, it's important. And the reason I say that is because if, for instance, if you are, you're playing for the conference title against North Carolina, just for say, hypothetically here, and you lose, you would have guaranteed, if you win, you guarantee your 1 through 4 spot. This is the way Clemson would be. But if you don't, you go from your top 4 to, maybe, I don't know, I'm just hypothetically speaking here. So, 8th or 9th, right? You don't get that fortune of a bye week. Well, no, I know. That's what I'm saying. But my logic is this. The regular season will become more important. And I think what it is, and closer to the end of the season, these teams that,
more teams.
Well, yeah. You look at, like, SEC, right? Garrett, me and you, right? We're both SEC guys here. We'll get this. So, obviously, your Bama is going to be in regardless. I think looking into it, Georgia's going to be the same way. And then you look at LSU, or you look at, let's be honest, LSU, Florida, those are your teams in the SEC that have a good potential to be in, not every year, but pretty much, right? But for instance, LSU, you sit there, you play, I think LSU is going to have a good season this year. What happens if they beat Bama and come into the West? That what we would think maybe come into, the 9 through 12 team comes into, one of the top 5 seeds. Right, and that's a big boost for the LSU. That if Georgia wins the SEC championship, we come in as a top 4 team. Bama falls down into playing that a home game. That not the bye week. So I think the importance is a thing. not like Clemson, Georgia, right? Like Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, more than likely going to make it in every year regardless, unless just something drastic happens.
Yeah.
But I do think seating and placement are going to be the key there, and that's why I think what Golden Blue Dude is saying, it's going to be important because you want to sit there and you want to have the competition against Clemson and against Ohio State. You want to sit there and you want to schedule great teams, marquee non-conference, Clemson, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Georgia, right? Like LSU, UCLA, kind of these UCLA, you get what I'm saying? Shit like that is what's going to matter. And I think you look at it, and we'll transfer from the playoffs to this. I want to talk about the upcoming season. But you take these non-marquee matchups, that's going to matter too. And I don't want the regular season to be diminished because I don't want to sit there and watch a team like, say, for instance, if you see Alabama play a cupcake schedule all year, play nobody, schedule nobody. Why should they get in when they play nobody just to sit there and skate through and win the conference or something, or just get to the conference championship? Make it earned, and that you'll see the best teams come out, and it means more. That's my logic there. But with that being said, we're going to talk about big games, non-marquee matchups. Clemson, Georgia. I think first one comes to mind, week 1. I think it's on everybody's radar. Honestly, I think LSU, UCLA will be a surprisingly good game.
Yep.
Alabama and Miami, another one. I think, let's be honest here, if De'Aaron King doesn't play in that game, it's a blowout. But
if De'Aaron King plays in that game, it's a blowout.
That game's going to be closer than people realize because Bama's offense is reloading. I know Alabama reloads, but Alabama does have that downtick year where they have to like 2019. They didn't make the playoffs, 2 losses. This is going to be that year. So Miami not going to beat Alabama, but it's going to be closer than people realize.
I don't think. I'm not saying anything.
I would say this. Everyone thought the same thing when Alabama had to play Louisville. They had to play Lamar Jackson. And, ACC, I know this. That Bama team, downtick year or not, they're going to just curb stomp whoever they play in week 1. It's one of those things, you give Nick Saban time to prepare for an opponent. 9 times out of 10, it's not a win. It's not a close one. It's a blowout. I don't think it's really going to be that close. I've never had faith in Miami at all. That program is dead. The U is dead. They aren't coming back anytime soon. They won't be back anytime soon. The only thing they have is the turnover chain. That's it. But in the big games and the marquee matchups, they drop it every single time. Derek King's a fantastic athlete. He's a great quarterback. But you put him against quality opponents. You put him against a Clemson secondary who was having a struggling year. Put him against a down year Alabama team. He's going to put up the same performance every time. He's going to complete half his passes for 200 yards. He'll have 1 touchdown, one interception, and maybe like 75 yards on the ground because he just busts out a broken play. Other than that, it isn't a competition, right?
And I just want to say about the Alabama reloading situation. We see Alabama reload every year, but when they're reloading, they already have huge amounts of NFL caliber players returning too. This is, if not the biggest reload year for not the biggest, but the biggest case for can Alabama reload. They've reloaded in the past, but look at last year, they had to reload on wide receivers. They lost Henry Ruggs, Jerry Judy, but now, they had Devonta Smith now, but this year you have John Mechie, your wide receiver too. Now you have Slade Bolden,
Ajayi Hall. It's going to be a big name.
Oh yeah. I think this is going to be the biggest, I hate to say, because I'm going to sound so stupid probably, but it's the biggest, can Alabama live up to its hype again this year, And I'm not saying it because, we just saw Alabama have a great year again last year. They won another national championship. But, I mean, this year is the biggest Alabama year where we don't know what's going to happen with who they have playing. You have Bryce Young. Like I said, you have all these players, but we don't know what they have done before, So
I
you
think.
know, I think
I mean, there are those question marks.
Oh, we
There
lost.
were those
That's okay,
question
guys.
marks last year. You know, there are those question marks every year when you have a team
but not
reload.
this
Yeah,
much.
like looking back. Well, I don't know. Like looking back at it, you could say that we didn't know the ballers that Bama had in 2017 or in 2016, right? Hindsight's always going to be 2020. I just know after seeing it year in and year out, yeah, we'd be like, oh well, we don't know who they're going to have. They're going to have dudes on that roster who are going to kick the teeth in, and that's just how they play. That's how they operate. I am a, I'm running with this. I'm a bread and butter guy. I'm going to run this play nonstop until you stop it. No one has stopped Bama in that sense. So I'm just gonna roll. You know, I hate to fucking say it, but I am gonna roll with the tide on it because they do it every year, no questions asked.
I think to Garrett's point here, sorry, Golden Blue. I think to Garrett's point, the better terminology for what you were saying is, do they maintain their standard? And you look at Bama overall, right? We see them in the conference championship if we make it there. That's the only time we see them outside of when we actually schedule them regular season. Last year we regular season game. Obviously we saw how that plays out, but you look at what Bama had. Everybody looked when Tua left. You know, people really were questioning what's Bama's going to be like. You know, everybody was like, is it Bryce Young's time? And then Mac Jones comes wait, and then just blows it up. So you sit there, you see him right there. You lose Ruggs, you lose, and then you come back with Waddle and Devontae Smith. So, you know, I'm looking at Mechie, I'm looking at Ajayi Hall. Those guys are going to be fine. You know, you look at a freshman like Ajayi Hall. I saw the A game or their spring game, and he showed out. And I think that's going to transfer over into the regular season. I just see that. And I see Bryce Young. You know, I think Bryce Young has it. Miami benefits playing Bama week one because, I mean, let's be honest, there's really not a lot of in-game important experience from Bryce Young. And I think that's the key that Miami has. However, it's Bama. And I just don't see Manny Diaz out-coaching Nick Saban. I just don't see it. So
And
I
he's
think
not
Bama,
going to.
no, I
He's
know
not
he's not. But I do think that it's a little bit closer. You're not going to see a blow up by 35, 45 points, nothing like that. I think 2 scores, maybe 14, maybe. But you're definitely going to see, you're going to see what Bryce Young is made of early. I think I wish I could have seen Jalen Phillips last year with that D line, see how they handle the offensive line, because Bama reloads. We know this, but they lost a lot of talent on that offensive line. And week one, they lose Leatherwood, they lose Landon Dickerson, just names after names. How do those new guys fall into those new positions and fit in? It's the same concept or the same logic that I have with Georgia against Clemson. And we've talked about this, Aaron, on a previous show. Clemson's D-line is the best in the country, in my opinion. I think Georgia's is right there behind them. The question is, which offensive line is going to be better? Whoever's offensive line is better will win Georgia Clemson this year. That's just the way that's going to be. And I think that's where, like, going back to Bama and Miami, does Miami have the offensive, the defensive pressure to really, keep him in the pocket and pressure, Bryce Young, because he is young, and if you do the right things, you can rattle a young quarterback. I'm sure he's poised. I'm not going to say he's not, but he's still young, and you can rattle a young quarterback. Look, I'll take Max Johnson. I'm going to go LSU here. Right? Max Johnson comes in against Florida. First start, does what he has to do, and pulls out the win. Look here. Everybody knows the MVP for that game was Marco Wilson in that golden shoe that was thrown 30 yards down the field. But nonetheless, Max Johnson comes in, with TJ Finley out, and does what he needs to do. So, kind of transferring this over to Miami. If De'Aaron King doesn't start, I don't know who their backup is. I really don't. But can he manage? Can he manage? Yeah. And I think that's what's going to be the problem. But defensive pressure on Bryce Young is going to be the key there, and I just don't know if they can do it. Just from the talent, like talent alone along the offensive line outside of left tackle, you can scheme guys, right? You can scheme help. You can't scheme help for a left tackle. You just can't. You're out there, and if you get beat, you get beat. I just don't see nobody on Miami's defense that cause that much havoc. You just got to really throw the kitchen sink at them. But they got too many running backs, man. They can beat you on the ground. They can beat you in the air. So,
even if Miami has the ability to get pressure on Bryce Young, you're right. Bama's offensive line and Bama's running back core can run the ball 100 times and they'll average 5 yards a play.
Mm-hmm.
Miami's defense last year was expected to be better than Clemson's. It was expected to be the premier defense in the ACC. They didn't do anything against Clemson. They still went 8-3. They had an absolute beast of a defensive line, right? Like on paper, that defensive line should have ran all over the ACC. Rozier, they had 2 guys taken in the first round off that defensive line. They had a third-team All-American linebacker. They had 2 All-ACC DBs. This was a team on paper that if you want to talk about exploiting Clemson's lackluster offensive line in the regular season, that was the team to do it. And they didn't do it at all. I just think they're good on paper. They're good in a regular season, like week 3, week 4 game. But you give any competent offensive coordinator, head coach time to prepare, Miami's going to struggle. I mean, they had a good team when they got shut out against Louisiana Tech. People kind of forget that Miami defense was still pretty good. I think it was 3rd in the ACC. So I just think Miami's defense lost a lot of guys. And if you want to talk about a team of question marks of reloading, it's them. So I don't know. I just think Miami, Alabama is only a matchup that seems enticing, just because it's De'Aaron King and Bryce Young. That's the matchup I'm going to watch.
The reason I think the win margin is going to fall between 14 and 17. I don't think it's going to be a close game, but it's going to be closer than expected because of all the question marks. There's going to be mistakes in the first half for Alabama. Alabama is Alabama. They're going to control the game. They're going to run the ball whenever they want to, but it is still going to be a figuring out of sorts. And Miami does have enough talent to take advantage of some of those mistakes. Alabama is way, and I mean way deeper than Miami. That depth is going to wear Miami out. But I think the talent that Miami has on offense, and it does boil down to De'Aaron King's health. If he's not healthy, forget about it. Miami shouldn't even show up. They might get blanked if De'Aaron King doesn't show up. But De'Aaron King is the X factor to keep it close. Not for Miami to win. I see absolutely no shot for Miami to win. Absolutely none. But I think losing by 14 to 17 is definitely doable because of De'Aaron King and because of pretty much the entire offense. I mean, Najee Harris is gone. Mike Jones is gone. Waddle's gone. Devontae Smith is gone. Half of their offensive line is gone. There's going to be mistakes on offense and some figuring out. So it's going to be closer, but at the end of the game, you're going to be like, this game was never really in question.
I think you see Miami playing tougher.
I
was about to say, you see him play good for about a half, and then by the third quarter is when it really starts to kind of the momentum swift and never change back. Hey, guys, before we're going to wrap this up here, but before we do that, we're going to go off a few games for week 1, and we're going to make our predictions, all 4 of us.
Okay.
So what I want to do is I want to start off with we're going to end off with Georgia and Clemson. I think that's just the biggest game. So we're going to work on some games. We're going to do Golden Blues team, West Virginia. We're going to do LSU versus UCLA. We're going to do a couple other ones, and then we'll work our way into some bigger games, at least of what I'm thinking, and then we're going to give our predictions. So does that sound good with y'all guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so let's start off with West Virginia. West Virginia plays Maryland week 1. Who wins? What's the score?
West Virginia wins, but I think this will be closer than people might think because Maryland does have a little bit of talent on offense. But I'm going to go final score 31-20, 31-21. West Virginia's defense doesn't take a big step back, maybe a slight step back. KJ Martin's back. I know Tyke Smith went to Georgia, but KJ Martin's back, so it's not going to be a massive step back.
Aaron, Garrett, if you're not comfortable with giving a score, just predict the winner who you think. I know not some of us don't follow, every score or anything like that, but just feel comfortable with what you want to give. Garrett, what do you think?
I was going to say probably in like that same 27-21, 27-17 range, You still got Rakeem Jarrett. You still got Tua's little brother playing. That's going to be a pretty versatile offense, I mean, we saw him explode for like 400 yards at one game. Forgot what game it was. But, I mean, it's going to be a high explosive offense, But, I mean, what West Virginia just has all the veterans still playing. So, I mean, still you got to give West Virginia about 27-21.
Yeah.
Okay.
West Virginia is only really replacing some significant talent out wide on their defense. Their offensive line still pretty stout. Their defensive line's gonna, I won't say shut down the run game, but they'll slow it up enough to where Maryland's really going to have to lean on Tula. I think it's going to be a little bit more high scoring. I think like in the range of both teams are ranging between I'd say West Virginia around like 38-42. Maryland I think around like 28-31. I think early in the game it's a shootout. First half it's like 24-21, 28-24. Something like that. Teams start to settle in the third, and in the fourth, Virginia's depth and their just better coaching abilities going to take over. And West Virginia is just kind of going to control the game and just start running away with it.
I'll give my prediction here. I think West Virginia pulls off a squeaker. I'm going 35-32. 35-28. I think it'll be a close last-minute touchdown that does it. I take that back. My logic being here is this. I think that Maryland's going to cause some problems in the Big Ten. I just don't know how much they will. That being said, I just think that, you look at what West Virginia is able to do offensively. You look at their defense, they lose a day or coach a die. And, you lose Tyke, you lose the safeties. But I still think that defense is still going to hold up. I think you're going to see a step back, but I do think that they still hold pat. And I do think that they pull away, like I'd say maybe a touchdown with maybe 2 or 3 minutes left to end the game. This is the way I'm going to call it there. Moving on to the next one, we got LSU and UCLA. Garrett, I'm going to let you start since it is your Bayou Bengals, man.
I think DTR is going to have a good time against LSU defense. We're still battling over stuff, but we were loaded, and it's crazy to even think about how much we returned. I mean, I think LSU's D-line is going to start going up there within, D-line productions in the country. We've never been a huge D-line school. And, now you have Mason Smith, Landon. You got 4 4-stars this year, 1 5-star. You got possible, 3 2 years. LSU's defense has just returned so much. You still have possibly the best 2 cornerbacks, in the country. Not saying Life's number 2 in the country, but I mean definitely top 5, top 10. It says you return a lot. The only position we're balanced for is safety. With Grant Delpit, everybody's still being gone. We still never have that one safety come back. But I still think it's going to give us some problems, but LSU is still going to go and win. LSU travels. UCLA never has been able to have 100% capacity before. Now they have. I think LSU takes over that stadium. We're going to win easily by 20. Probably going to be in that 41-20 range. About 41 to 20. LSU just returns too much for UCLA to handle.
All right. Hold on. We actually have another guest popping in. I heard him coming in. It is, I don't know if y'all are familiar with him, Dr. SEC. Yeah. Big time. Welcome to the show. Sorry. Can you hear us?
You there?
Yes, I am. Welcome to the show.
Hey, I appreciate it. This is as good as I can do as a logo. I just had my gallbladder taken out this weekend, and I look highly drugged up and messed up, and so I don't want that picture out there. I'm not pretty to start with, so the last thing I want people to see is the way I look right now. Hey, I've enjoyed listening to the show, man. You're doing a great job, and definitely for great calls.
Obviously, if I can do something for the kids, man, that's a big deal for me. But yeah, no, we were actually talking about just giving some predictions here. We were on the LSU and UCLA game. So while we're at it, would you like to give us your prediction for that game?
Hey, real quick, guys, I got to run. I got to go pick up my wife from work real quick.
All right, buddy. Hey, thanks for coming on. No, you're perfectly fine. Thanks for coming on, man. I know I had a good time. I hope you did as well.
Oh, yeah, I did. Y'all have a good rest of the show.
It was a pleasure.
Guys. Thank you. You too, bud.
Yeah, I back to the LSU UCLA game. I don't know if there's a team more scary to predict at this point headed into the season than LSU. I mean, they're just so many question marks that are there. What's going to happen at the quarterback position? Who's going to truly be the guy once it all begins to happen? But I still like LSU in this game. But I don't like them by more than a field goal or a touchdown. But I would say probably at this point, I would probably go like 28-24, somewhere in that range. But again, this is the one game that I want to come back to later before the season starts because LSU scares the crap out of me, man. I mean, they could be really, really, really good or they could be really, really, really bad. I don't think there's a team in the country that has a bigger gap between what they could be and, on the good side and the bad side than LSU right now.
I agree with you there. Aaron, what do you think? What's your prediction for the LSU UCLA?
DTRs and probably one of the most electric players in college football. And I mean that in the sense of it's an absolute torrential downpour outside. You don't know if he's going to be running well or he's just going to not show up. He's a great player, great athlete. But you don't know if you're going to get absolute joystick of a player or just an absolute dud of a quarterback. I am gonna lead with size and the beast I know. LSU's just big team. They got size on them. They're gonna overpower UCLA. I don't know what to expect from LSU at the quarterback spot yet. But if they know what they're going to have, they know who they're going to have up. I think LSU it either starts off LSU dominant and they cool down, or game starts slow and it gets hot late. I don't think it's going to be a complete game by either team. I think it's going to be, one team's going to struggle early, one team's going to struggle late. It just depends on who it is. So I don't think I don't think it's going to be that big of a brain teaser. I have probably LSU by 10.
Look at that. So I'm going to stop real fast. We have a donation. Aaron actually donated 20, which brings us to $50 total. He chose not to make anyone sing their fight song. So we live to fight another day, guys. We don't have to sing our rivals' fight song. But, moving on to my prediction here. My prediction here, You look at the question marks around LSU and mainly at the quarterback position. And you look at, Miles Brennan, you look at Max Johnson. In my opinion, Max Johnson is going to be your starter, and I think it's because he's a better fit for that offense with what you're wanting to do. And you sit there, you look at, what he did with Florida was one thing, but I just think that it's a different team with Max Johnson there. And like I said, it all stems from his ability and his fit in the offense. Nothing against Miles Brennan, but I just think that Max Johnson is just a better fit for that offense, and it's going to make that team better. You look at defense, cornerback secondary is your main spot here, and you're well on your way there with Stingley and Ricks. And I think that's too much for UCLA to handle. So you look at Keyshawn Butte, you lose Arik Gilbert to none other than the Georgia Bulldogs. But nonetheless, you still have Keyshawn Butte who, broke out and really emerged last year. And I expect LSU to have freak athletes across the board in the receiver room.
Mike Jones.
Who?
Mike Jones Jr. He transferred over to
He-
LSU from Clemson. I also think he's going to stop DTR. He's just an athlete out wide.
Yeah, you threw the junior in there, so I couldn't do it again. But yeah, no, you look at LSU; they've always had athletic freaks, and like I said, I think Mac Johnson starts, and I just think that it's too much, too much pressure for UCLA's offense to mount any kind of true threat here. So I see it being maybe 28-14, LSU. Moving on, we'll do one more game here, and then we'll hit the bigger games here. Penn State at Wisconsin. I'm looking at this game right here, and I think Penn State jumps back, and I think they go back in a good way. They're going to be back in a big way, I think. You look at Wisconsin, seems like a battle of heavyweights automatically in the Big Ten. I'm going to make my prediction and say that Penn State pulls out a win. I think you look at 28-24. And I'm going to make Penn State the winner there. Aaron, what do you think?
I've always kind of liked watching Wisconsin. They are the most, in my opinion, traditional football team out there. They run single back formation almost 9 times out of 10. I'm going to lean on the Badgers. I just don't know a whole lot about Penn State outside the fact they are replacing some of their dudes. I have no doubt they can replace them with talent. I just think Wisconsin's that team. They've been doing the same stuff every year in and year out. You could put a toddler at running back. They're still rushing for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns because that offensive line is just absolute roided up, big, burly lumberjacks.
So big fire, ugga.
Yeah, I do think Penn State struggles to stop the run, and I mean struggles like they give up like 350 plus yards like on the ground. So I pick Wisconsin in a nail biter because I don't think their passing game gets up, but like I'd say like 24-21 Wisconsin.
Okay, Dr. SCC, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm a big fan of James Franklin. I think he's one of the, by far one of the best coaches in the country. I mean, again, think about winning 18 games in 2 seasons at Vanderbilt those last 2 years there. I mean, just unbelievable what he did there. Has been off to really a good start, just not quite there at Penn State. Obviously, last year was a different ball game with COVID and all of that. I think this is a chance for him to really prove that he's a top 5 or 6 coach in the country. I know that blows a lot of people's mind when I say that, but I think this is a big bounce back year for Penn State. Obviously, like we talked about, that Wisconsin running game is going to be fierce. It's going to be difficult, but I think they get enough stops to pull this out. 28-24 Penn State over Wisconsin. But again, it's easy to see why people would be high on Wisconsin over Penn State. But I think this type of year, a bounce back from COVID, we're going to see who the elite coaches in the country really are, because we've got a lot of different things that have hit us, that have come our way. And I think James Franklin's going to pull this one out because it's the first game of the year. I think he's really, really good with some time to prep. And I think that Penn State pulls this game out.
There you go. There you heard it. Garrett, what are your thoughts on this game, man? Penn State or Wisconsin?
I'm about to say 2024. I think, Sean Clifford, he's still going to have to come out and have a huge season again. And I get Penn State isn't the biggest passing school in the country. They're majority running, but at the same time, you have a sophomore running back followed by freshmen now. So I really feel like, Sean Clifford is going to have to show out and carry some more weight in the passing game this year. I think James Franklin knows that. I think they're going to have to, in order to beat Ohio State, they're going to have to beat Iowa, beat Michigan State, beat Wisconsin first game at Wisconsin. I think, this is going to be, I think the first game of the season is really going to decide how their season goes this year, but I think 2024 is going to sound about right.
That sounds pretty close right there. Just obviously different different teams. All right, we're going to go to Alabama versus Miami and Atlanta. Dr. SEC, do you want to give us a starting prediction here for this?
Yeah, I kind of heard you guys talking about it a little bit earlier in the show. And as you look at this Alabama team, every year we see question marks, right? Like every year they lose a lot of guys and then they replace those guys. But I don't remember a season in my years of covering them where there's as many questions at many important positions. I mean, we're talking about, this isn't a situation where, Mark Ingram is passing down to the next running back and the next running back to them. Yeah, they've got some talent there, but what they lost in Najee Harris and the lack of experience they have at quarterback, I think the offensive line is going to be really good. The receivers are going to be really good, but man, you're talking about all-time great levels that they've seen over the last couple of years at wide receiver. There's a lot of question marks there for us, and I think there's some for the coaches as well. So I think they come out with a more vanilla offense. I think they try to just maintain the game because they know they're the superior team in this battle. And I think in the end, we see that the running game and a couple of big plays out of the passing game, and we see that Alabama pulls away. Never in doubt, though, right? Like it's that game you look at and you say it's never really in doubt, but it only is, I would say at the end, if I had to choose today, I would say probably 31-17, somewhere in that range, but never really in doubt. But this Alabama team has got a lot to replace on the offensive side of the football. And again, going back to the quarterback position, we've seen every year for a long time now, the next guy had a lot of experience. Bryce Young doesn't have a lot of experience, and he didn't look as well or as great as everybody hyped him up in that spring game. There was a lot more hype to his play than I think that was actual meat when you go back and look at the tape. So I think they come out kind of vanilla, but I think they obviously they hold it within a couple touchdowns all game long and pull out the win.
Aaron, what about you, man?
Like the doc said, Bama's replacing a lot of talent, a lot of elite talent, world-class, all-time levels talent on the offensive side. I just think, it's Nick Saban, it's Alabama, it's the Crimson Tide. And with a team like Miami who thinks they're this, thinks they're that, think they're the U, I just think Bama goes in with a business mindset. Miami goes in with the we're this, we're that mindset, and they get humbled real quick. I think it's Bama, and it's Bama big. I'm going like 42-21. I just think Bama runs away with it late, and that's about it. But that's it if De'Eric plays. If De'Eric doesn't play, it might as well be 1,000-1.
All right, I'm gonna give my prediction, and then I'm gonna let Garrett give his because, Alabama's the rival to LSU, so I think it's fitting. I'm gonna say that it's gonna be Bama, and I think it's gonna be at least double digits. But I'm thinking you 3 scores, or 3 scores, not 3 touchdowns, but I think 3 scores. I think you look at 38-10. No, not 38-10. Sorry, 38-21. My fault. The reason why I say that is this. Dr. SEC said it perfect. Alabama has to answer several key positions, both sides of the ball, in my opinion, but more so on the offense. That's what drove Alabama to historic success last year from a statistical standpoint. They had one of the most dynamic offenses you'll ever see, so at least so far, right? But the offensive line is going to be a big question there. I look at I'm not. It's not a matter of if they can do it. It's just who's going to do it and how fast they can do it. But you look at the fixing it here. But Bryce Young may be inexperienced, but I think he'll shine, and I think you'll see a Jai Hall shine, and I think you'll see Mechie be very consistent and have big plays. My one question is, last year with Sarkisian there, offensive coordinator, what happens with the transition over to Bill O'Brien? I just don't know if I'm sold on him there as an offensive coordinator. I just want to see what he's about, because there was a lot of plays last year that Sark had designed on the field, and it was brilliance. Really, more so, my favorite was Devontae running across underneath, where you had a post cutting over, so it really threw the guys off, and then it just Devontae walks across the field and just runs it wide open for a touchdown. That was one of my favorite plays to watch because it's just brilliance. It really questions what he can do, what Bill O'Brien brings to the offensive coordinator position. I just see them being too dominant. It's just too much talent for Miami to really become a big problem. I think even with De'Aaron King there, De'Aaron is a big time player, but it's just not enough. And let's be honest, you look at the Alabama's defensive front, they're going to cause problems. That's just what's going to happen. They're big, they're fast, and honestly, that type of pro level type defense is going to be too much for De'Aaron King in this game if he plays. If not, it could be even worse. I look at it, like I said, 38-21 Alabama. Garrett?
And I was gonna say, it's gonna be right around there with me too. Alabama. From the side of the defense, there's no question. You have Jordan Battle, not Jordan Battles. What other thing? There's Battles. You have Josh Dobe, you have Malachi Dupree, you have all these different players, and then there are big names from last year, and then you go to your offense side and you look at, okay, we have John Mechie, we have Slade Bolden. The rest, we don't know yet, and I think that's going to be their biggest question. And like we say, Alabama reloads every year, but this is possibly the biggest year with the most question marks, no doubtly. And then it's just going to be like you said, I think they're going to take a big thing, like a big lead first, and then they're going to try out different players. Here's going to be their tryout game right here. Who's going to perform against Miami? Because Miami's defense, they're good. They're just good. They have players, and they're going to come and play. Now, when it comes to their offense, who knows? King is going to play. He might not play. That's going to be the biggest question for Miami. But I really believe this is going to be a huge trial game, like it is for LSU. LSU is going to have a trial game. So UCLA is sticking to Alabama. It's probably going to be within that 38-41 to 20-21.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in that range, right?
I think Bama's just too much for about any team.
Oh, yeah.
Let's be honest. And which that leads us to our last prediction. And honestly, this is probably the biggest regular season game of the year. And honestly, you could probably look at it as being the biggest regular season game in several years, in my opinion, looking at the stakes come week 1. And that is Clemson, Georgia. Obviously, Charlotte, North Carolina, prime time. Aaron, me, and you, Georgia, Clemson. But we're going to wait. We're going to let Garrett give his prediction first. Garrett, what do you think?
I don't want to sound SEC biased, but I really think Georgia's going to pull away. Sorry, Aaron. It's just, fine. Especially without George Pickens, I still think it's going to be huge. With George Pickens, even huger. But I mean, you have JT Daniels, who came off a hot streak. I mean, he was just hot every game he was playing. And then, like I said, you add in Eric Gilbert. Then you have whatever the other tight end's name is. But then you just bring back everybody. But now you go to the defensive side. I mean, you still like you said, you got Tyke Smith. You have Ringo. You have all these players who have experience. Were they starters? Probably not. But you still have this experience of where I could come in, I can play. Let's play this. And then you go to Clemson. You have Ugalele. Huge guy. I'm so high on him. I really think he's going to run the ACC. He's going to run it. The conference is his if he wants it. It's his. Then you have Justin Ross. I love Justin Ross. I've been a huge fan of him coming out of high school. He's just a good guy. I love the dude. But then you go to defense too. I really feel like this is going to be Clemson's big year on defense. Can they live up to the standards that they have always had? I feel like it's not going to be a blowout. It's not going to be. It's going to be really close, really really close. You're going to have to say in Georgia, have to say in Clemson. It's going to be half and half. It's going to be a home and away game for each team. I really think Georgia wins by 3. Really going to be about 34-31.
Dr. SEC, what are your thoughts?
Man, what a prime time game. Kudos to both teams to taking this game and not shying away from it or finding another Six Flags University to fill in the schedule. So kudos to both teams. Clemson is Clemson. I mean, they're scary in so many ways. I tell you the thing that scares me the most about Clemson, and correct me if I'm wrong there, and I might be, but I believe they return more defensive starters now than any time in Dabo Swinney's career. I think I saw they got 9 coming back, and 8 was the last time was 2000. The last time they won a national championship, 2018. So this defense is going to be very, 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 very good. The offense obviously has one of the best players in the country at quarterback. Obviously, they got you could say that almost about every position for Clemson every year. Although I'll say they got some production to replace there. I think they've got and again, Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong. I think they've got about 60% of their offense coming back this year statistically, stat wise. So plenty there, to replace on offense. But to me, it comes down to Georgia. Is Georgia ready to become the powerhouse we've been waiting for? I really thought it would be last year, and then we had the opt out at quarterback, and we ended up with a walk-on quarterback, and the mess that was that offense. But it should have been the year last year, we thought, having a quarterback, but it wasn't. This year, and I'll say this, I was a very big critic, and wrongly so, the high mark. I thought Georgia they are a top 5 team. You go get a proven commodity. They went and got Kirby Smart. He's proven me wrong every single time. And I'm a big believer in what he's done there. But with that said, this is the year for Georgia, if there's ever going to be a year for Georgia. Because we know this is an offensive game now, right? Like, you want to have a great defense that makes stops, but the reality is you've got to have a great offense these days. And this offense of Georgia is just unbelievably stacked if JT Daniels stays healthy. But what I saw out of JT Daniels, and we can go against who they faced and all of that, what I saw of JT Daniels is something I haven't seen at Georgia in a long, long, long time at the quarterback position. And with that said, he wasn't 100% last year. As much as he did statistically, it's like every single game he missed 2 or 3 passes because he didn't quite trust that knee. When I watched him this spring, he looked like a quarterback that finally trusts that knee, that really his movement, his rotation, everything looked the part. And defensively, they've lost a lot. But what has been Georgia's strength over the last 2 years specifically, it's been the fact that they play so many defenders. So it's not like the guys behind them don't have the ability to come in and make the plays. And, of course, the transfers just boost that. And I almost know that I'm shooting myself in the foot by doing this, because this has been the criticism of Georgia the whole time, right? But this Georgia team looks different than any Georgia team I've ever seen. I think Clemson is still Clemson. I think this team, both teams make it to the Final Four, but I think that Georgia pulls this one out 34-31 because ever since the season has ended, all we've seen is JT Daniels. If he goes to the bathroom, the wide receivers are right outside the door waiting for him, right? We know what the running backs are going to bring. There's some question marks still there on the offensive line, but I think that Georgia makes enough plays early in the season with more experience on offense coming back. I think they make more plays in the final plays. Now, I'm not willing to say they're going to beat them in the Final Four, but I like Georgia 34-31 in this game.
Well, there you go. Aaron, let you have it, man. Take it away.
Yeah, surprisingly here, I'm going to go against the grain of my 2 predecessors. Like what the doc said, Clemson is returning 9 of our 11 starters on defense, but I would say this. We're returning 15 of 17 starters. And what I mean by that is Clemson had 17 different guys start at their respective positions throughout the season, right? Yeah, we are replacing DK. DK missed half the year because of disciplinary issues. Okay, we're losing Mike Jones Jr. Mike Jones missed 3 games because of like a groin injury. We're not really replacing starters with unproven talent. We're just replacing starters with starters, in my opinion. This is probably the second scariest defense I've ever seen as a Clemson fan. The most scary defense I would have to say is that 2018 defense that absolutely tore Bama a new one. But the best part about this game is it's good on good versus new on new. No one knows really what to expect. Losing Pickens is absolutely huge for UGA. That's, he was their dude. He was wide receiver 1. And, Pickens going up against Andrew Booth Jr., Sheridan Jones, Malcolm Green would have been a huge matchup in and of itself. But now what you have is I won't say an unproven wide receiver core. I would just say I would just say no real dudes yet. And that isn't a bash on them. They have an absolute scary wide receiver core that I would say is one of the best in the country. What I mean is we haven't seen them in the game. Everyone's looking at each other going, Tim Tebow, 30 minutes for the rest of your lives, like they haven't really had the need to do that. And this is their game to do so. On the other side of the ball, on the other matchups, you have UGA's just mammoth of an offensive line going up against Clemson's just ridiculously stacked defensive line. One of the biggest matchups is going to be if UGA's offensive line decides to double team someone on Clemson's defensive line. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be, 350-pound Tyler Davis? Is it going to be 325-pound bull rusher Brian Brissy? Is it going to be, in my opinion, the best defensive end in the country in Miles Murphy? Is it going to be KJ Henry? Is it going to be Xavier Thomas? You really don't know. And whoever UGA picks to double team, they're leaving a dude on an island with an absolute stud. So it's one of those things, if Clemson's defensive line can get to JT, can rattle him, can make him raise questions about that knee, which in all honesty shouldn't be raised. He's proven on that knee. I would take, if I didn't have DJU, I'd take JT in the battle. He's an absolute stud. If Clemson can get to JT, it's going to give Clemson's offense a chance to, in my opinion, exploit UGA's secondary. That's the biggest matchup, is Clemson's new wide receivers versus UGA's new secondary. I mean, the Dogs had to replace all 4 secondary starters. Yep, they bring in, in my opinion, 2 All-American talents, but those are on other teams with other defensive coordinators, with other safeties, and other nickel cornerbacks helping them out. You don't know how these guys are going to react in a new uniform, in a new stadium, against a completely new team. If Clemson's offensive line can buy DJ enough time to just pinky flick a ball 50 yards deep, it's going to be a tough day to watch as a UGA fan. Not because it's going to be a blowout, but because UGA is going to drive, they're going to move down the field, they're going to be methodical against Clemson's defense if they want to score the ball or score points. While Clemson has the threatening ability of just going big ball, just go deep. So I would say, I got to stay with the orange tinted sunglasses. I have Clemson 38, UGA 35. I think the game looks very similar to 2013. Just two stud teams going back and forth. But I do think Clemson's defense makes a strong stand late simply because we have the mad scientist Jimmy Greenbeans, Brent Venables at our disposal. But I do think it's going to be a close game. I've only put money on the fact that I told a friend the game is going to have more Clemson fans than UGA fans. That's the only money I will put down on. Outside of that, my hands are up. I just want to watch one of the best football games I've ever seen.
I am in full agreement here. While you were giving your take, oh man, Garrett decided to donate 20 as well, and he has chosen Aaron to sing the Georgia fight song. And because we've been going on, guys, we've been going for 2 hours now. Aaron, you don't even have to do the full thing, buddy. Just your glory. Just hit glory a little bit. Do I need do you need the music? Do you need it?
I'll play it up in the background.
All right.
Garrett's gonna hook it up for you.
Go ahead and play it. Make sure this is recording so I can.
Oh, buddy, we're live.
My UGA fans.
Oh, you know damn well this is live. So, guys, get ready for this.
It should be coming up soon.
So, guys, while the fight song is pulling up, Garrett's pulling it up.
I want to go back to that bet Aaron had. I'm actually want to get in on that bet. Maybe $25 to St. Jude. But nobody out travels the Georgia Bulldogs anymore, man. They overtook every stadium they've been in lately.
Here's the thing,
they took over Notre Dame Stadium. They look like Vanderbilt, man. Like a Vanderbilt game.
Man.
So
I'm going to be real with you. I think
that Georgia has a bigger crowd than Clemson.
Yeah, no. My bet with my friend was $50. If it's obviously noticeable, there's more Clemson fans there,
right,
then I get 50. If it's 50-50, we just do a push, right? And if there's obviously more UGA fans, he gets 50.
Well, I tell you, it's
however,
hard to Georgia being
I've
outside.
already put more money down because my family made the mistake of for some moronic reason, not getting tickets through IPTAY. Tried to get it through Duke's Mayo themselves. Those tickets sold out in like 3 minutes. So I did drop a hefty amount to watch this game. So if I am to lose the game and lose a bet, I'm not making it home from Charlotte. Well, yeah. I don't know, I guess, all the words to this song, but I know the keynotes and I know how it ends.
Look, well, I'll tell you. How about this? I'll tell you when to stop. Just hit it for the first little bit since it's been a while.
But I got to do the ender. Because I do respect that.
Okay, I'll let you do that. I'll go ahead and give you my take. Take it away, man. Take it away.
All right, let's go. Let's get this.
2, 1.
Glory to old Georgia, and to hell with Georgia Tech.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Right.
I mean, I'd stick with Tennessee, but that's just me.
Well, I gotta say Georgia Tech. They're one of our rivals.
No.
So.
Look, I hate them too. Don't worry. You're not in unison. Look at this, man. We got some background music. Hope I don't get copyrighted, but I don't even care. Guys,
you about to have Georgia finding you soon.
Oh, Coach Kirby Copter comes to me. I'm
Kirby
freaking
calls
out.
you. Hey man, you can't do that.
How'd you get my number? No, so I'm gonna give my take here, guys. Last take here, and then we're gonna wrap it up. You look at this game on paper, and they're so even that it makes this a toss-up. You look at Vegas lines at what Clemson is a 3.5-point favorite. I think it is. No, I can't do that. I don't feel comfortable making a pick. I wouldn't bet anything on this. Just not me right now. It's just so many question marks in regards to like how even we are, Georgia and Clemson. Georgia in the offseason, question marks at secondary offensive line. Right now, I think the only question that I have right now I'm really questioning and want to see what happens, left tackle. And I think for this, though, you look at Jamari Sawyer is going to be in place for left tackle for this game. I do think for this game, maybe even this game only, by the end of the season, Amarius Mims is going to be your left tackle. The dude is ready to go, but when it comes to a game of this magnitude, you need your A game and you need the experience. And that's where Jamari Sawyer is going to come in and hold down left tackle. But you sit there, Georgia, we lost some guys off the offensive line as well. But this is a spot that Georgia is talent-wise very, very deep at. And guys can come in. And like I said earlier in the show, outside of your left tackle, your blind spot tackle position, you can scheme guys, like I think Tate Rowledge, if he starts at right guard, I think you're going to see scheme kind of help him with this. You can only help so much, but I think it will help him. The thing is, that's why you need your experience, obviously, at your blind side tackle positions. But let's be honest, Clemson lost a lot of offensive line as well. So this is where my take comes in. Who wins the battle of the trenches? Both teams have elite defensive lines. I think Clemson is just slightly better, but I think the reason why I say that is your starters are ridiculous all across the board. I love Brzee, Murphy, Henry. I love them. Xavier Thomas, love them. But I just wonder. I think the depth may benefit Georgia a little bit when you have Jordan Davis, you have Devontae Wyatt. You look at your edge rushers. You have Adam Anderson, Nolan Smith, you have Channing Tindall, Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean. Then you have Jalen Carter and Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker being 300 pounds running kickoff, right? That's just a freak of nature. And Jalen Carter, guys, that LSU, Garrett, I don't know if you've seen him. Dude is a fucking animal. And but Kirby wants that experience. So who's gonna create the most havoc? Which one? Like I said, they're both kind of even to me, but which one's going to be more dominant? Is it LSU's or not LSU? Is it Georgia's defensive line against their offensive line of Clemson, or is it Clemson's D line causing problems for JT? But I also look at quarterback experience. JT has more experience. Games like this, quarterback experience matters, but obviously it stems back to the trenches. If JT has time, that's how you can beat it. If your defensive line is causing JT fits, even if you're not rattled, it's still going to be hard to make production on the offensive side of the ball. And then you look at the secondary for Georgia. Secondary, obviously we lose all four guys to draft, and then you replace them with Tyke and Darian Kendrick. And we're talented, but we're not experienced. And when it comes down to Justin Ross and Ladson, Aaron, you know what I'm talking about, y'all's receiving core. Clemson can cause fits, but it's just a matter of who can handle it better, right? We saw Clemson kind of get, in my opinion, embarrassed against Ohio State, but Ohio State had Olave, and they had a deep, very, very deep receiving core. And that's kind of what Georgia's bringing for the first time in what feels like forever. And it's a nice feeling because we're not used to this kind of depth, even without Pickens, right? When Pickens comes back, I think he will, but not for Clemson, then you're at another level. But right now, even without it, the addition of Eric Gilbert is going to be a problem. For any team, it doesn't matter what defense. If you give them time, you look at the matchup with Eric, you put him in a slot position or X, right? You put him and Darnell Washington, which are two oversized guys that can run like receivers. That is very scary, very scary. Ultimately, I think it comes down to a last possession, and I think the defense of whatever team will win the game. I think that is Georgia. I'm going to say 38-35, and it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a classic. Aaron, you get to watch some of the best football you'll ever see. I think it happens too, man. I think it happens.
Big question I got really, I think it comes down to which players are going to make plays in space, because I think both teams are going to try to offset that pass rush by trying to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands real quickly. And that's one of the reasons I like Georgia, because of what they have in the running backs and tight ends as well. But again, there's something about experience, man. There's something about winning, and Clemson's done a whole lot more of it in the last decade than Georgia. And so there's reasons to be nervous. But I don't think this is I think this has to be the year for Georgia, because they have it at every position and in that depth.
Yep, absolutely.
One of the biggest things, though, that I would say, this is probably the biggest week one matchup we've had in almost a decade. This game, in all honesty, has no effect on either team's playoff aspirations. Right. Whoever loses this game, whoever wins this game, it doesn't make or break any playoff, which is why I love the way Clemson and UGA kind of worked out this 3-game series. All 3 games are week one. We got the neutral site. Then we got, I think, 3 years off. Then we're in Athens. Then we're in Clemson. Both teams, Clemson, UGA, any real college football fan knows that is a rivalry. That is a rivalry that should be played more often than it is. I want to see it played every year. I would love to just drop the Gamecocks. They're trash. They're worth nothing. They play in a dead cockroach stadium. Get them off our schedule. You guys drop Georgia Tech, and we go at each other home and home every year. That's the game that I want to see every year.
That's the best idea I've heard.
That is the game my dad grew up watching. He became a Clemson fan off of Clemson UGA. He went to Clemson because of Clemson UGA. He wanted to be a part of it. I want to be a part of it. It should be every year. And the fact that both schools wanted to make it happen so bad and understood that, hey, both teams are at this point now where we are top dogs. We are a part of the elite. Let's play week one so it's fun. We get to itch the scratch, or scratch the itch, if you will. Enjoy the high of playing, but then also understand that it doesn't make or break a season. UGA is the only team in the country right now who I think has a road to the playoff with 2 losses, right? UGA has, I think Clemson has more to lose, because we can't lose again. Because if we're 11-2, I don't think we're making it in, because people are finally going to have a reason to keep us out. I get that. I understand it. It is what it is. UGA has a road to be 11-2 and still make the playoffs because of this game. I'm just excited. I do hope neither team goes, oh, well, we can drop this game. No. I want to see I want to see lateral passes. I want to see jawing, not really fists thrown, but I want to see some open hand slaps on the helmet here and there. I want to see Clemson versus UGA. That's what I want to see. I want a rivalry renewed, and I'm excited for it. And the best part about it is, if Clemson loses, I can still plan a trip out to Houston.
There you go. Now, Dr. SAC, you mentioned that was the best thing you heard. I take that as a second best thing I've heard. If someone told me that they moved the cocktail party so that we could beat Florida's ass every other year in Sanford Stadium, that might be my favorite thing I would hear. But, look, I would love to play Clemson every year. I think that's a true you're talking about a true litmus test. That's how you do it. You play the marquee games, and that's just what you do, which is why you look at teams like Georgia that set up non-conference matchups with Ohio State, Oklahoma, Clemson again, right? I think that needs to be the way to go moving forward, right? The losses are whatever. If at that point, if you have 2 losses, it's a reason you can. If you come out and play those kind of games and come out with 1 loss or maybe 0 losses, if you come out undefeated, then you've earned the right to play in a playoff. That's just the way I look at it. But guys, look, we're going on 2 hours and 15 minutes here. I just wanted to thank each and every one of you guys for coming on, taking your time and talking college football. Obviously for the calls here. St. Jude, we donated, I want to say we see $70 here total so far. Thanks to everybody that's
I'll put
tuned
30
in.
there, make it 100.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Dr. SEC with the donation right there. And, like I said, obviously we can sit here and talk football. We do it for our respective teams. But I love kind of collaborating here for a greater good. Obviously, I love seeing kind of charity type things like this. I do it because I love it, right? Like that's just me. And I want to see, people, enjoy college football, right? I want to see a Clemson fan talk about LSU or talk about West Virginia. I like to see that. It's all good to have your team, but it's good to sit here and kind of keep your scope around. But obviously, doing it for the cause just makes it that much more enjoyable and more meaningful. But on that note, though, guys, I'm gonna go in order here. We'll go Aaron, we'll go Dr. SEC, and then we'll go Garrett. Tell everybody again where they can find you, and then we will call it a wrap.
All right. Well, guys, my name's Aaron Bass. I am the key contributor for Fifth Quarter Clemson. You can find my personal at Aaron J Bass on Twitter, on Instagram, just about anything. It's at Aaron J Bass. You can find my Fifth Quarter account at FQ Clemson, and then you can also find my articles at fifthquarter.com/author/Aaron J Bass. Robert, I thank you so much for having me on today. It's a great cause. I'm really excited for week 1, and maybe we can get together to do another collaborative effort before that game. But until then, I got to go, guys. Peace out. I appreciate it all. We'll see you soon.
All right, buddy. Thanks for coming on, man. Dr. SEC, where can people find your work?
Absolutely. Well, obviously you can go to twitter.com/the DRSEC. But the way that we're really being pushing over the next month is, of course, the website secradio.live. We'll be having a master relaunch on next Monday. And then next Tuesday, we're having a relaunch of the Dr. SEC TV network. You can find on Roku, Apple, Amazon, any of those things. Just type in Dr. SEC, and you'll be able to download the channel there. We're doing a relaunch of it, so it's a gamble because we've got over 150,000 subscribers right now on the channel, but we needed to do some major upgrades, and the only way to do it was this way. So we're going to try to encourage everybody to get out there and re-download the channel and give it 5 stars.
There you go. I know I have a Roku TV, so just to let you know, I added you as a channel, so I'm just waiting for it.
Man. Thank you.
Garrett, where can people find you, buddy?
This is going to be my personal. You're going to find Garrett St. Pierre. There's really not too many St. Pierres in the world. I'm a key contributor for Fifth Quarter LSU. I'm the only one who runs that page. It's going to be Fifth Quarter LSU. Just look that up. Yeah.
Guys, thanks for coming in. Dr. SEC, thanks for hopping in. I know it was a little bit late, but hey, better late than never.
I didn't expect that gallbladder to come out Sunday.
No, obviously talking offline, I was thinking about that. I was like, obviously I don't want to push anything on you. So I was glad that you were able to hop in, even if it was a little bit late. So no worries about that. Like I said, I enjoyed having each one of you guys on the show. I look forward to, listening to more content that y'all put out. I love listening to college football in general. But on that note, though, guys, look, like, subscribe, YouTube for the DGD Podcast. Obviously, this is Robert Reynolds. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Like I said, YouTube, Twitter, right? The DGD Podcast, Facebook. You can find us basically anywhere. And also the website, dgdpodcast.com. On that note, though, guys, I hope everybody has a great time. Great calls for today. Thanks again for tuning in. The donation link I will post up for in the YouTube and things like that so that people can do that. Also in the show notes for the podcast, whether, like I said, if Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. If you want to look it up, do that right there. If you want to donate, the donations are still open. But on that other, guys, I'm going to call it for this episode of the DGD Podcast. Have a good day and go Dogs.
Enjoy